You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Gotta ask y'all about this here. The FBI, Associated Press reported this. The FBI is conducting insider threat screenings of 25,000 National Guard troops to ensure a safe inauguration. The extra precaution comes after a number of insurrectionists stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, and that included actual active service members. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said none of the troops helping to protect the inauguration have been flagged so far, but the government will continue to vet National Guard troops in order to prevent another coup attempt. What does that say about Donald Trump and how he has unleashed these white supremacist domestic terrorist thugs on America? Mustafa, I'll start with you.
Well, you know, we've talked about how hate crimes have increased under Donald Trump significantly to the highest levels. We've talked about how the militias have grown. And we also know the historical context in our country that white supremacists and white nationalists have been a part of law enforcement and the military, for hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, we know what the black codes were all about and that they hired many of the folks who were in the Confederate Army to actually begin to impact and to brutalize black people in our country. We saw the same thing in the civil rights movement, where we had law enforcement and others, and even National Guard, who sometimes were engaged in those types of behaviors. And we know that it even moved to today. So they needed to make sure that they're going deeper, and they need to make sure that there's real criteria, you know, before someone goes into the military, of actually looking deeper into the background. There are background checks, but that they can go deeper on that, along with both Capitol Hill Police, the National Guard, and many of these other folks who get to carry guns and get to make a decision whether you live or you die. So we have to get really serious about this. And I can speak because I've worked with all kinds of law enforcement over the years, and I've worked with a number of the black law enforcement inside of there who've told me the stories about individuals, you know, who are in there. By no means is it everyone. So I don't want to get, you know, folks sending in messages to the show saying Mustafa said, you know, that all law enforcement is not doing the right thing. But we know
of active duty military members being a part of potential insurrectionist activities.
Well, I'm just glad they're finally, you know, acting based on the reality that we've known for years. As we've mentioned over and over again on the show, the FBI has said decades ago that police departments across this country are infiltrated by white supremacists. We know, too, that historically white supremacists have actually intentionally gone into the military just to receive tactical training. So obviously there will be an element in those institutions that could very much sort of side with the insurrectionists. We know, too, that there were several off-duty policemen who were, in fact, arrested as being part of that, crowd of terrorists who invaded the Capitol and attempted the coup. We also know the woman that was shot and rightfully shot as she was going into through the door that they had just knocked the window out of, trying to breach the secured area where the legislators were. She's a former Air Force person. So, you know, it makes sense that they would vet these people. But, you know, I believe, unfortunately, they're not going far enough in terms of the breadth of the vetting. I just saw today a report that a couple of busloads of volunteer NYPD officers are coming down to help. And my first thought was, have they been vetted? This is a very dangerous situation. And it would be very easy, quite frankly, comparatively, when you compare to the general population, for someone who is on the inside, so to speak, who have a weapon at their side, who is trusted to be in close proximity to these dignitaries, to be the ones to carry out the violent act. So I say, thank goodness they are vetting them. And in fact, I hope they vet even more, even those who are claiming to volunteer.
Julian, Reuters is reporting that Donald Trump plans to He plans to pardon or commute the sentences of more than 100 people. One of them is Lil Wayne, who pled guilty to federal gun charges. According to Reuters, he does not plan to issue a self-pardon after it was explained to him that likely is not legal. Granted, the president has a wide latitude when it comes to granting pardons. New York Times had a story over the weekend, basically how a bunch of rich folks were paying people upwards of $50 grand to $2 million to secure pardons for them from Trump.
You know, this has been the most corrupt administration that we've ever seen. That man has used our nation as his personal piggyback. We've seen it in piggy bank, rather. We've seen it in terms of any number of things. The granting of trademark to Ivanka, his daughter, the pardon of his son's dad. But they have used this as a piggy bank. So we're not surprised about anything. What I'm disturbed about, as opposed to surprised about, is what will happen on Wednesday. As Avis said, there are people coming down to volunteer. Well, what are they volunteering for, and who are they? We know that from the Brennan Center of Justice, they did a report a year ago that talked about the unholy alliance between law enforcement and white supremacists. And we know from our own history as Black people that basically law enforcement, half of the sheriffs in the South were Klan members. They basically, and half may be an overstatement, or it might be an understatement. But what we know about that is that oftentimes we saw people lynched with the full concurrence of Southern sheriffs. So we know that this is not our space. It's not our time in terms of what they're doing, and we have to be extraordinarily vigilant. The pardon situation, every president, even ones we love, President Obama, President Clinton, they pardon people that we would raise questions about. The biggest question I have is whether or not 45 will pardon his children. And if he pardons himself, guess what? He is admitting guilt. You can't pardon people for something that they didn't do. So if he's pardoning himself, he's admitting guilt. And I think his advisors have been correct in dialing him back on that. But, I think that at the end of the day, if you dance to the music, you got to pay to the piper. At the end of the day, he's going to pay to the piper, whether it's Tish James in New York, whether it's Cyrus Vance in New York, whether it's Carl Racine in D.C., whether it's someone else who says, dude, you ain't getting away with this.
Well, I think it is safe to say we are dealing with gross corruption in this administration. And I think, Mustafa, in the first 6 months, we're going to find out how corrupt these folks are. Once the team Biden gets in there and begins to examine things, they're going to discover real fast the kind of sick things these folks have been doing. From an environmental standpoint, how they have absolutely destroyed the EPA, how they have destroyed the Department of the Interior, how they have destroyed the scientists in the USDA. I mean, the attack on science over the last 4 years is mind-boggling.
We're going to find out all the lives that have been lost beyond the COVID-19 moment that we find ourselves in. We're also going to find out how all these dollars, these federal dollars, have flowed to a whole bunch of folks who they probably shouldn't have went to, contracts, subcontracting opportunities that not enough folks have paid attention to and looked at, who may have been Trump friends or supporters and others. So there's going to be an accounting, and folks are going to pull out all this malfeasance that has happened, and there's going to be additional charges that are going to happen to a whole bunch of folks.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.